Mold is gold. Let's get into it. Hey guys, how you doing? Werenka here from Simply Home. We're the fastest growing real estate company in the United States, and I've got an all-star team. Whether you're looking to buy, sell, invest, rent, whatever you need, we've got you covered. We even do property management now. All right, today I've got a very special guest. I'm here with Yasmin Whitmer. She's the president of Ivory Property Restoration. She's going to tell us everything that you need to know about restoring your property after you've had some kind of crazy natural disaster, flood, hail, you name it. She's all over it. So we're going to jump right into it.
Yeah.
So Yasmin, what exactly is property restoration, and do you need to be a general contractor to get involved with it?
So property restoration, it's a very specific industry in itself because we respond when there is a loss at a property. It could be residential, industrial, commercial. The type of property doesn't matter. What triggers the need for a property restoration contractor, just like us, is there's some sort of a disaster, right? It can be caused by water, fire, smoke, storm, hailstorm, lightning hits a tree branch and falls on your roof, or even the hurricanes that we're seeing almost every year in our southern states. All of that requires a property restoration company to get in there, repair the property, and mitigate.
Awesome. And so for people that aren't familiar with that, how does that differ from just like a general contractor?
So a general contractor, typically they're not on call 24/7 versus the restoration industry or contractors. We are on call 24/7, and we are one of the first responders that respond to a loss at the property. So it doesn't matter for us if it's 8 a.m., 5 p.m., or 3 in the morning. If it's Christmas, 4th of July, Labor Day, it doesn't matter. There is a loss, there is some sort of a disaster within your house, we will be there pretty quickly, usually within an hour to two of your call, and then longer depending on weather conditions and the distance from the local offices. But a general contractor, the construction industry, they do a contract, they pick up the land, or they're doing some building from ground up, or they're renovating. It's mostly by choice of the customer. They want to do something, not caused by a disaster or an outside effect.
And then, so in your industry, the word mitigation always pops up, and then restoration. So what's the difference? What order does that go in? How does that work?
Sure. So mitigation is always the first step we take. It is the first thing we do when we do respond to that emergency call from the homeowner, from the fire department, from the police department, from the insurance carrier, whoever that may call us. We respond, and we try to mitigate the damages so that we make the property safe for the residents or the pets or the commercial building, whatever it may be. So safety is number one. Second is we try to mitigate and eliminate as much of the damage that has occurred to reduce secondary damages. For example, if you have water in your basement, what we do is we extract the water. The sooner we extract the water, the less chances of mold growth. But if you're going to have the water sit there, you're going to have mold growth within a couple of days. You may not see it, but it's going to keep growing.
Right.
So that's what mitigation is. We get in there, we try to reduce the damages and mitigate the property and preserve as much of it as possible. Reconstruction is phase 2. That's when we're there, we cleaned up, we sucked all the water up, it's dry. Now the reconstruction team comes in and puts it all back together. Puts your drywall back together, rebuilds the kitchen if it was a kitchen fire, whatever it may be. That's sort of what they do. It's more of the, like, you can think of it as the construction aspect of it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then Ivory handles both sides of that.
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Great. I know that you guys handle everything, but what are the most common causes of property damage that you guys run across?
So they fall within different categories. Water is a main one, and like for us in Michigan, it's cold right now, so we see a lot of burst pipes because they freeze, right? The temperature drops, or the homeowners are on vacation in Florida and they have no clue what's happening. So burst pipes for various reasons that happen. Appliances, so dishwashers, the washers, right? Water heaters, contain a lot of water,
right?
And it runs through the house. For fire and smoke, unfortunately, kitchen fires, both in residential and restaurants, are common. And with fire comes smoke, and with fire comes water from the water department. So now you're dealing with fire, smoke, and water damage at your property.
Lovely.
Yeah, so
Great.
it's a trifecta there. You get mold.
Yeah.
Homes built before 1978 most likely contain asbestos.
Hmm.
Lead paint. So the older homes, the older communities, you got to make sure that you test for those because the safety of the residents is number one. So that's another aspect of it, and no one really knows until you start to renovate or do demolition, whatever it is. You have to be mindful of that.
Right.
So those are the common ones. Vandalism,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or something as simple as you're right here on the main road, slippery roads. Someone is going to drive right into the front window,
Yeah.
right? Then you need someone like us to come in and board up your door and the window until we can replace it and order the materials.
Gotcha.
And unfortunately, there is also trauma cleanup, so crime scenes or hazmat cleanup or environmental cleanup. So all of that encompasses the restoration, and what Ivory does as well. We provide all that service.
Awesome. And then you bring up a good point too that I hadn't really thought about. But you guys handle all types of property, right? You do residential, industrial,
Yes.
commercial, you name it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Excellent. And then you just brought up a whole bunch of different scenarios, but so I guess what type of damage is the most typical that would require property restoration services?
So that is specific to the geographic area of the home, right? Because United States is a very big country, right?
True.
The west to the east, we have so many different climate that we go through. But let's talk about Michigan. Water damage. Winter, water damage because of burst pipes. In the summertime, we get our rainstorms, so we get that. Unfortunately, in Detroit, we get the backup of the pipes on the streets, and it goes into the homes or whatever, so we get that as well. Colorado, Oregon, they all get a lot of rain. Seattle, Washington, they get a lot of rain, so that triggers it. Down south, hurricane, almost every year. So that's a whole series of damages that come in. So it quite varies, but honestly, it could be as simple as you forgot to turn off the candles. I've had those as well.
Crazy.
Right?
Yep.
And it burns down the entire house.
Unbelievable.
Candle fires are common.
No kidding. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have guessed that. So
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. I guess it makes sense. Yeah. And that's another good point because I'm so generally laser focused on Michigan and specifically Metro Detroit, but you guys handle all over the country or in different parts of the country anywhere. So I guess geographically, what service areas do you guys have?
So we got 3 offices. We service Troy, Michigan, the greater of Detroit, Houston, Texas, and Birmingham, Alabama.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then ideally, in a perfect world, nobody that's watching this is ever going to have a disaster happen to their home, but invariably, it's going to happen at some point in time for a lot of people. So what's your advice? What kind of common mistakes do people make that maybe that if they're watching this, they can avoid that?
Sure. That's a really good question because a lot of the losses we see at a property, it follows up with an insurance claim, right? That's why we carry property insurance. So the first thing I would recommend, if you choose to, is submit an insurance claim, whoever your carrier is.
Yeah.
And the reason you do that, because under every single policy, you have a significant amount of time, right? 30 days, whatever your policy says, that you got to report the claim. You fail to do that, insurance company is going to say, we're not going to pay out because you missed your deadline, right? So it's submit your claim. You deserve it. You pay your premiums. Another one is a lot of people DIY. They want to do it themselves, but you're dealing with different aspects of damage. If you're dealing with switch backup, that's nasty cleanup, and there are significant steps you got to take to make sure you clean the property and the basement or wherever it happened correctly. Insurance carriers require certain things to happen. So if a home, mostly homeowners, right, if they want to make sure that they are given what they really are worth under their insurance policy, I recommend working with a restoration contractor or contractor who's familiar with the insurance industry, because that's a different aspect of it. And getting what they deserve under the policy for their home. They
For
should
sure.
really do that. So that's a big downfall with residential is I can do it myself, but then you're not gonna get what you deserve.
Got it.
Those games are played.
So you could run the risk of A, not getting the full amount that you should have coming to you, or B, maybe you miss a step and get nothing at all if you don't follow the right process.
Correct, but because everything got to be documented, right?
Yeah.
So if your basement floods, for example, and you throw a bunch of stuff out, well, you got to prove to the insurance carrier that you had that table in the basement, but you threw it out. The garbage pickup took it,
Yeah.
but you have no pictures.
Got it.
So it's a lot of that. Like you got to document, you got to use their software, you got to communicate. And those insurance policies are not written to understand.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
They're not easy.
Yeah. As you know, insurance is such a big topic
Yeah.
in the media nowadays. So yeah, definitely, I think that it's really in the forefront of people's minds. So yeah, for sure. Don't do it yourself or something like that. and as you know, I've sold the worst houses you can imagine in the worst neighborhoods you can imagine, and sewage cleanup is not something you ever want to tackle on your own.
Nope.
So no, that's definitely great advice.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it.
For sure.
And then obviously it sounds like this is, you know, once you have a project like this underway, it sounds like there's a lot of moving parts involved. So who are the key players involved in a restoration project like of that scale?
Yeah, so it's going to be quite a few people. We're always going to have the property owner. So residential, we have the homeowner, but with commercial properties, as you're aware, some of them own multiple properties. So now they have property managers in place. So we get a property manager as a player. Definitely your insurance carrier and your insurance agent, the restoration contractor. If someone decides to hire a public adjuster or an independent adjuster, you have them as well. You're going to have engineering if there's structural damage to the property, so they got to come in, evaluate, and write a report themselves. And you're going to have, of course, the city involved for inspection and the permitting and making sure that the work is done per code and regulation. Yeah.
Awesome.
Those are the key players.
Well, that works. And then just, you know, finally, you know, just kind of the last question I have, it would go along, you know, kind of with everything you've already talked about, but like what advice do you have for anybody that's watching this?
For sure. I will actually focus this advice for you and your clients in the commercial industry because, in my opinion, the commercial industry, a lot of the buildings are intended to generate revenue, right? So if there is a loss, regardless of the source, your clients should have contact to a restoration company so that when they call, we know who they are. They don't have to go through the intake process, and we can dispatch immediately because every hour they're down, they're going to lose revenue depending on the business they're in, right? So that is key. It's not going to happen all the time, like you said, but once a disaster hits from a water on the 10th floor apartment is going to trickle all the way down. You want to put a stop on that.
Yeah.
Fire at your restaurant, right? Or whatever it may be, got to have that contact and go through the intake process and whatever else that the contractor requires.
Yeah.
So all you got to do is pick up the phone, make the call, and you'll be taken care of.
Awesome. That's excellent advice. Yeah, because I imagine nobody thinks about it until when it hits.
Yeah.
Now everything's hypercritical all at once,
Right.
and if you have that step out of the way, then it speeds things up quite a bit.
Absolutely.
So, that's great advice. So, you know, God forbid, hopefully nobody watching this ever experiences any kind of damage or needs restoration done to their home. But if and when you do, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
So you can call our 1-800 number. It's 1-800-375-9648. You can call anytime. We're a 24/7 business. If you want to reach us directly via email, you can do at claims@ivorypr.com or shoot you an email and you'll put them in contact with me. I'm happy to help.
I would definitely do that. So I know we talked. You've got the three center. You're in Birmingham, Alabama, Houston, and then Troy, Michigan. So what if, you know, hey, I'm in Flint? Like, you know, what is your service range around those cities?
So we provide a guaranteed 2-hour radius from our local offices, right? So we will, and Flint, for example, is within 2 hours. Anything above that, I want to be very upfront with the customers for when to expect us. But within 3 hours, we have a good chunk of the radius within all of our locations covered.
Cool.
And it serves a great community. Actually, it's a large community that we can service.
Right. Yeah. I mean, 3 hours from Troy is most of Michigan, realistically.
So. It really
that's
is.
Cool. That's
Houston
good to know.
Is huge. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And a little tiny bit of Texas.
Yeah.
Right. But no, that's cool. No, that's great. Great to know. I hope everybody listens to what she has to say and take action on that. And again, if you do have questions, reach out to Yasmin. Reach out to me if you need anything. Truly appreciate you being on here because this is especially this time of year. Yeah, we're encountering burst pipes all over the place now. And mold's always a thing here. We're surrounded by water, so it gets humid here. Most of the year. So mold in attics for some reason is becoming a much bigger thing. So definitely. Much appreciated. I think it was really valuable information and great advice. And thanks so much for being on here.
Anytime. Thank you.
Thanks. And thank you so much, guys. And again, if you need anything at all ever, you can reach out to me anytime. If it's not involving disaster remediation, my direct line, as always, is 586-491-5622. Call or text me anytime. Email DeroitWerenka@simplyhome.com. I'm on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, LinkedIn, you name it, I'm on it. So just shoot me a DM. I respond quick. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching this. Really appreciate it. Always trying to bring relevant content that's going to be helpful to you guys. So hopefully this fit the bill. I think it probably did. And we'll see you next week. Thank you so much, and we'll talk soon.